Good morning. Just got done going to the store. I'm off today. It's cold out. We got it down in the 40s the last couple of days. It's been kind of refreshing. I like it. Good spring weather, keeps you on your toes. It's supposed to be 80 something in a couple of days. Maybe it'll shake that coronavirus up a little bit. Anyway, I worked all weekend. I'm going to have to say it's really slow at the hospital. It's funny because all these patients that were in rule out for the COVID, a lot of them have come out with a negative test, so they didn't even have it the whole time, and we wasted tremendous amounts of manpower. Really, the testing is the biggest problem that I see, is not being able to test people quickly and find out if they have it or don't have it or whatever. It makes it almost impossible to function. It's really laborious. Anyway, I listened to a little bit of James Gilliand, a little bird there, this morning. I think came out, it was last week's show. There's another one. I think there's one every Sunday night or something like that. But anyway, it was good, good reminder of things. It's kind of funny because a lot of the stuff he talked about, I was talking with a coworker yesterday about. And, it's kind of good because I'm at this point now, I think, where I've getting enough self-confidence that I'm able to just say, okay, you know what? This sounds really woo-woo, sounds really out there, but I'm just gonna roll it out there a little bit. And this girl I work with, she's a Christian, real devoted Christian. And I like people like that because at least they are trying to do something. They're trying to live by a higher standard, and I think that alone is really powerful. Dodgy calls it a sanculpa, where you have the thought of, something happening. And so I talked to her a lot about stuff that I believe true, and it sounds far out there, but she's been watching a couple of videos that I referenced her to, and she's been, she's kind of starting to, I guess people call it red pill, but she's definitely been red pilling. And it's interesting when that happens to somebody, because it is like a light goes off in their head. And there's a lot of information out there. A lot of it is probably fake. Some of it's partially true and fake. Some of it's true. And, that's where our discernment comes in, and our ability to analyze and, self-report, being able to go inside and say, okay, I'm just going to sit with this and see if it digests. Like, it's like eating something and seeing, how does that feel in my stomach? It's giving me some gas, making my stomach hurt a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I should, steer away from that. And that's what we're really being faced with right now, is this opportunity to, become very, very keen and very sensitive at this self-reporting. Super powerful. And, but I was talking with her, and I'll just briefly go over it because I kind of talked about it in a video a couple of weeks ago, that we're really playing out two timelines here. We're seeing two timelines play out. And that's why I think we're getting a lot of confusion with stuff, because we're seeing the New World Order deep state timeline. It has been programmed and set for a long time. A lot of people are pulling up research on this Dr. Fauci, and how he's connected to Bill Gates, and how he was a big-time Hillary Clinton supporter. I mean, he's a deep state operative, okay? So their models, their predictions are the most dire predictions. They aren't really, I mean, they say that they're adjusting them based on data, but they are already, it's like the program is wrong. It's not right. It needs to be thrown out and a new model put in. So they're sticking with a model that they developed. This is what they were hoping for. The worst case scenario is that's what they were hoping for. They were making their predictions and their plans based on the most severe, death by the millions, total shutdown of the economy to where the economy essentially collapsed, martial law where they could come in and take our Second Amendment, go house to house and gather guns, go house to house and take the dissenters, people that have been on the internet, the truth seekers, and put them in internment camps. I know that sounds really far out there. And I mean, but that's where they were headed with this. This was their program. This is what they wanted to do so they could continue to control. And, you don't have to go down the rabbit hole very far to realize that these dark forces, deep state, whatever you want to call it, are all about control. They're all about control and they're all about power. That's why they do the things they do. And I think we're not going to find out all the information, like I said before. We're only going to find out, a little bit. I don't think we'll know all the dirty, deep darkness of it. Maybe, like I was saying to my friend, maybe in 20 years, people will write books about it. People who are survivors of the satanic ritual abuse, and we have those people in our culture right now who have survived through these things, and they've written books or come out on the internet and spread information. And there's probably a lot of fake stuff too. It's just hard. That's why that's what the deep state does. They have the capacity, the ability to create fake information, and they've done it with all kinds of things. They've done it with the UFO movement. They've done it with this new age spiritual movement. They've done it on every level. So anyway, it's just really interesting. There's a lot of potential right now, and like I said, the two competing timelines. So you have the deep state timeline, and then you have the white hat, I guess you could call it, timeline. And it has also been in the planning for quite a long time. So they've been preparing for this. It's like they've been preparing the soil. Now's time for the plants to start coming up. And they got this stuff ready. They've been getting stuff ready for a long time. And like I've said before, I believe that people who are trying to, be the best they can be, work on self-development, work on opening their heart, doing meditation, doing a spiritual practice. People I consider to be true Christians, people who are truly in it for the spiritual side, not for the material side. I believe they are, spearheading this and driving this and bringing in this divine light, this divine energy that's going to, sift out between the good and the bad. It's like James Gillian talked about it, and I talked about my friend. I said it's like cancer. Cancer wraps around all the vital organs. It makes it very hard to distinguish what's the cancer and what's the vital organ. But godly energy is so profound and so intelligent, I guess you could say, that it's able to separate the two things. So the cancer part starts to actually falls away and becomes separated from the healthy organ. Or if you want to use another analogy, they in the Bible they talk about separating the wheat from the chaff. It's a process that the divine does naturally. It's a part of natural law. It's not something that requires. Our intention is very powerful. You can heal your body. You can do things with your mind using your heart mind, using your intention. But it's basically natural law to separate the wheat from the chaff. That's just what happens in a natural sense as you become more purified and as you become more God-centered, God-focused. The wheat and the chaff become separate. And the wheat is the vital part of our spirit that will move on to higher levels. And the chaff is those aspects that aren't necessary anymore. They maybe served a purpose. Like a wheat kernel has to be wrapped to keep it protected from mold and disease. But at some point, it's necessary for that to be released. And right now we're in a situation where we're in a collective release of the aspects of ourselves that we just don't need anymore. They're just not necessary anymore. The the fear, the greed, the avarice, the all these things are just not necessary, not anymore. And maybe they were necessary to teach us lessons, but those lessons have been learned, and it's time to move up to a higher level. It's time to move to the level of love, pure love, and godly energy, which is pure love. It's time to go ahead and step into that now. And so we're seeing this shift where we're seeing these timelines are starting to converge, I guess you could say. They're not even really converging. It's kind of like one of those freeways where one part of the freeway goes above the other part, what do they call them, mix masters or whatever, where they crisscross at different levels. Well, that's where we're at. We're gonna cross the old timeline, and the new time we're gonna cross, but the old timeline is at a lower level than the other timeline. And I believe it was Chargy. He was the third president of the Heartfulness System, and Pockets of the Future, Paul, he would talk about how Chargy would say that the lowest of the high is still higher than the highest of the low. And so the highest level of this Masonic, satanic, whatever, they talk about 33-degree Masons and all that. The highest level you can achieve on that level of we'll just call it satanic level, because it really is just a worldly, narcissistic, satanic thing. The highest level you can achieve there is still lower than the lowest level of the higher path, the heart path. When you become initiated, born again, or whatever term you want to use, into a path, into a relationship, a different kind of relationship than you've ever had before. And heartfulness has been that for me. But I practiced meditation for many years, but heartfulness is kind of that. I was like reborn into this new way of seeing the world. It was like, it would definitely one of those things where you could say there's definitely a transition point. And it doesn't even have to be clear. It could just be something that kind of transforms over time. Everybody's different. Some people have a near-death experience where they actually leave their body and go to a higher realm, and they experience that, and they have remembrance of that. And when they come back to Earth, when they come back to their earthly body, they're never the same after that. Well, that's like being born again. But it can happen very naturally and very progressively, like I've talked about before many, many times. So it's really important that we just understand that we're still at the higher level. Even if we feel down, we have faith. We have faith in God. That's something these other people don't have. It's very sad. They're in a state of confusion, and they're letting these converging timelines throw them into a state of confusion. And this is where you have to focus on God. And like I've said in other videos, you have to keep doing remembrance, to keep doing focusing. And I had a meditation. We did a group meditation the other day from home. It was online, and it was just amazing. Like, I hadn't done a group meditation in a long time, but it's just amazing how much clarity it gave me. It felt like some old baggage got dropped off, and I felt cleaned and refreshed, and I didn't feel confused anymore. I didn't feel depressed, and it was just very organic and very natural. And it was almost like, just washing some, you get dirt on yourself and you go take a shower and wash it off, and you don't sit there and think about the dirt going down the drain. You're just clean. It's just all you need to know is you're clean. You don't have to know anything else. And that's what's being offered to us. And like I say, not just heartfulness. I'm talking about connecting to God. Whatever path that is for you, that's between you and God. That's between you and your higher self. You can pray for that, ask for that, and I believe God gives us gives us immediate return on that. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to run around feeling bad. We can immediately be in that state of joy and that refreshed state. But if we're not, we don't have to beat ourselves up about it either. We're going to have times, even when you're on the higher path, you're going to have times when you just don't feel good. You just don't feel right. It's okay. It's your system's being balanced and cleaned, and you're being refreshed. You're being put into a higher level, and it requires an evolution of consciousness at each stage. And there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it pain, but there's almost a little bit of feeling of loss there, because as you go to those higher states, as your mind becomes more purified, you're giving up things. You're losing attachment to things, and so there might be a residual kind of feeling of like, oh, I'm losing something, I'm missing something. I mean, I know I've been going through it with this, with this COVID stuff. Just my portfolio has been dropping, and a tremendous amount. And you know what? It's been good for me. It's actually been a really good lesson, because I knew that money didn't make me happy, but now I've been more grateful. I'm having more gratefulness for the fact that I've always, been conservative, and I've saved money, and I haven't been wasteful, because that's coming back now and giving me, physical security. And, Kamish just mentioned it in his talk the other day. We have to have the two wings of the bird. It's very important to have the material and the spiritual in balance. And things like this, they can help bring you back to balance. There's certain material things that I would, like to have that will help bring me into a material balance if we go without. I bought another gas can today. I'm thinking about maybe buying another generator. I mean, these are like super practical things, but it doesn't mean that you're being unspiritual by doing that. You're actually creating harmony on this physical level, so that you don't have to be in meditation thinking, oh man, what am I going to eat? Oh my God, the power's out. What am I going to do? How am I going to fix dinner for my kids? Or, you're not worrying about things like that. You're able to focus on what you should be focusing at that time. So anyway, everything has its place. And this went a little longer than usual. I do have a Liz Crokin video to watch. I would suggest you guys watch her. Now, again, does she know everything? No, she doesn't pretend to know everything. A lot of these people coming out with this information are really sticking their necks out. But it's based on what they believe to be true. The evidence points in that direction. And so I listen with a grain of salt. I'm not going to, throw all my chips onto the table, but I'm going to definitely be, use discernment, just like you would do with everything else. Use discernment. Even with heartfulness meditation, I use discernment. It's part of the process. You're supposed to. It's natural, and it helps keep everything in its proper place. So anyway, hope you all have a good day.